right, how's everybody doing, first of all? Everybody's fine? Okay, so the topic, before we get started, what I would like to do is let's do a moment of silence. I don't know everybody's background in terms of the spirituality, but let's do a moment of silence where you can, you can pray or meditate on whatever you want to just get our minds and our spirits in the right direction in terms of this masterclass. Everybody's okay with that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, just some. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So my topic today is doing music, being in the music business in this year 2020, which has been extremely an interesting year. And I probably would have chosen another topic. However, I like dealing with the present. What's going on right now and everything. As mentioned earlier, I'm a graduate of MB Smiley High School, which is located on the northeast side. Well, it was located on the northeast side of Houston. Is now known as North Forest High School. I went to Jackson State University as well as Texas Southern University. Among the people I played with, my first professional gig was with a blues singer named Johnny Taylor. Blues singer by the name of Johnny Taylor. That was my first touring gig. And from there, I played with, in terms of touring artists, Luther Vandross. I've played with Bobby Lyle. I have, up until this pandemic, was touring with another Grammy Award-winning vocalist by the name of Regina Belle. I've shared the stage with numerous people. Some of you have seen me at galas with the great Hubert Laws, Ronnie Laws, Joe Sample, just to name a few people. I've shared the stage with several people across genres, and we want to talk about how important that is as well. I am a product of Mr. Conrad Johnson. I played in his big band for a number of years, and actually, while I met Conrad Johnson while I was at Smiley High School, and through a program called the Summer Jazz Workshop that he was teaching and he founded. So that's a little bit about me. All right. Now, this year has been extremely challenging for me, but one thing that I found out is that I was blessed because I was well-rounded in terms of my musical experiences, as well as my experience with life. My father was a musician, and my mom was an English teacher in high school English teacher. So they made sure that I was well-rounded, made sure that I stayed on top of my academics, because all of it, even though I am a musician, I still deal with everything that goes on in a classroom at school. I deal with that daily in my daily walk. English and reading and all that is extremely important, because even in this pandemic, I have to be able to read contracts and understand emails, and even you guys, like when you got the email, you had to understand, the Zoom use WordPass, the password to get in and all that, the link. You also had to understand the importance of being on time. It's a schedule, we schedule for this date. And that's just all about communication, which comes back to being able to read, in terms of your English and the stuff that you're getting academically at school. If you are a musician, and everybody on here that plays music know that we deal with mathematics every time we pick up an instrument, because we're multiplying, subdividing, and doing all kind of things that require mathematics. I tell my son all the time that there's no way you shouldn't have a bad mark in mathematics, because of the fact that we deal with mathematics all the time. But so what I'm getting at is all of it relates. And then the most importantly, if you're going to do this for a profession, you're definitely going to deal with mathematics, because you want to be able to count your money, and you want to be able to determine percentages, your percentage of what you're supposed to get, and make sure you're not overpaying, or you're not overpaying someone, or that you are not being underpaid. Now, one thing I want to add, so I'm looking at everybody. I want y'all to loosen up, okay? I'm looking at everybody. I don't want to have all these serious faces because this is going to be very interactive, okay? Now, some of the challenges, like I said, once again with this pandemic, some of the challenges that I face is one, of course, not being able to perform as much as I would like to, on a regular basis, and that goes back to the finance factor, which deals with mathematics. I have played 4 public performances since March the 13th. However, bill's still coming through. You see what I'm saying? So, so that one thing that has prepared me for this, and I think that has helped me get through this, is the fact that I was well-rounded. And this is a very important word for musicians in this time period and moving forward, is that you have multiple streams of income. Does anybody know, anybody under 20 know what multiple streams of income mean? I'm sure Mr. Carmouche spoke on that. Anybody under 20? Or you got to unmute your mic.
I think I know.
Okay. I'm listening.
There's my camera. Okay, so it's when it's when you want to get, it's like getting multiple jobs so that if one thing fails, you can still keep on making money. Is it like that?
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I don't want to use, okay? And
Yeah.
you're exactly right. I don't want to use the word fail because I look at in terms of what we do and what our endeavors and what we put effort into doing, we're not failing. We just have certain things that may not be doing as well at this point, or it may be a slow period, but you're absolutely right there. Like certain things, you have several ways to be able to earn a living and be able to take care of yourself. Okay, because we play music because it's enjoyable also, but it is also a viable profession. Okay. What I've had going on is that I've been able to teach privately. I am working on a situation where I'm syndicating my radio show. As mentioned, I have a radio show on KTSU that comes on 4 days a week. However, there are other cities that would like to have that same show on, different stations in other cities that would like to have that same show on their radio, in their city. So I'm in the process of what you call syndication, which basically I record my radio show, a radio show, and with music and my voice, and then I send it through a large file like Dropbox or WeTransfer, and they are able to play it on their radio, on their station, whether it be in Atlanta, whether it be in Austin, whether it be in New York, whether it be in London, whether it be in France. Which brings me to my next thing, is that thinking about music, and when you think about things like that, you must think globally. Mean that, okay, we're not going to just lock ourselves in this little bitty bubble, okay? We're going to think globally, and that makes it even more vital that you have a great understanding of all this other stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with the playing side of it, which we're going to get to in a few minutes, okay? So I got the radio thing going on. I have the private lessons going on. During this pandemic, it has forced me to get my technology hat on, as Mr. Robinson is so great at. And I have built me a little small studio, nothing quite as nice as his, but I built me a little small studio where I'm able to record at my house. For an example, if Mr. Robinson is working on a song at his studio, which he's in right now, and I'm in my studio, we don't have to physically meet up, which is not, a good thing. Everybody wants to be distanced during this time period. We don't have to meet up. So he can email me a track or a file, and I can record it here at my place and then send it back to him, and bam, we are able to make a record without actually being in 2 different places. That includes 2 different cities. That can be 2 different countries. Okay, so that has been another source of income. And then I am a recording artist. So I have 6 CDs out. Let me see if I can find the last one. Okay, here's the last one right here. I have 6 CDs out. That is, even though CDs don't sell that much no more, and then CDs are also a thing that people typically buy when they go and view a concert, or because there are no record stores. Streaming does happen. And that's a whole nother thing, where you guys, enjoy the Apple Music, the Google Play, and the Spotify's and all that stuff. And streaming does happen. Okay, and so Mr. Turner, what does streaming have to do with you being well-rounded in all your other subjects? If you cannot count money in percentages, you're in trouble in terms of selling records in this day and age, because it is extremely complicated. There are publications that come out every day about this new music industry, and how we are to make a living as musicians in the 20s, the 2000s, and we're in 2020. So it comes back to a lot of reading, which I mentioned earlier. It comes back to making sure that you are very, that you are proficient in mathematics, and like I said, with the reading comes understanding and comprehension. Now, as a musician, what I found with younger musicians is that younger musicians during this pandemic, for some reason, because you're not performing anywhere, don't feel the need to practice. Don't feel the need to practice, which is, I don't understand it, because you have more time to practice now than you ever will.
That's right.
And the thing is this, is that practice, your individual practice, should never be connected to performing, okay? Because you want to be prepared for any opportunity that comes across the table. Any opportunity that comes across the table, you want to be able to say, hey, I'm prepared for it. Regardless if it's music or any other profession or any other endeavor that you might have. You just want to be prepared for when that opportunity happens. You can just walk in that door, and if you don't get, that position or whatever at that time, that's okay. But it won't be because of lack of preparation, okay? So that's a little bit about what I've been doing. I've been trying to keep my practice schedule up. I've been trying to learn different things in terms of like my studio thing, which has required a whole lot of reading and a whole lot of communication with people that are doing this. And then actually getting ready to start making another record. So that's the practicing and the writing and all the things I do on a daily basis. And then just making sure when that check come in, that is right. and that's the mathematics of all of it. The other thing is this, is that even though we're in this time, in this time where it seems like everything is standing still, technology never stands still. It never stands still. So that's where your science piece come in. So the musician that only wants to play music and feels that that's all I'm going to do, that day and time is over if you want to be successful. Okay, now I'm going to talk to, this is everybody under 20. Okay, also, another reason why it's important that you practice and keep your practice schedule up and stay on top of things is that even though education has been altered and everything is, is virtual and, you taking online classes, that instrument still can afford you an opportunity in terms of scholarship dollars to go to school. And it is and scholarships now are more competitive because of this situation than they were when I were in school. So, they're still out there. I've had band directors calling me as late as last week, still looking for students to come to their universities. Do you have any students that are not enrolled in a university? And the thing that they ask, and it goes back to academics and it goes back to being well-rounded. The first question they ask is what is their GPA? Then they ask, have they taken the SAT or ACT? What type of person are they? Are they dependable? Are they just a good person? Do they get along well with others? And the very last question is, can they play? You know, because if you have all those other things together, most of the times you're going to be proficient on your instrument. Most of the times you will be proficient on your instrument. So don't think because you don't have a performance that you don't have to prepare. You should prepare every day like you're performing tomorrow. All right? Now I did a whole lot of talking, and I believe in communication and everything. So this is going to go both ways. So at this point, and this is open to everybody, and typically the way this normally works is that the adults will be the first ones to ask the question, and then the kids will be more comfortable asking questions. So I'm taking questions about anything in terms of operating the music in terms of music and in terms of the music business in these trying times in 2020.
Where do you see us going, Kyle, in with this? I know, and it's an uncharted territory that we're doing anyway, and we're just trying to feel our way. But how do you foresee not even the whole year, to foresee the next 6 months as it relates to your performances and your classes, things like that? How are you doing your classes anyway? How you doing?
The same way I'm doing this here right now.
Okay.
Via Zoom, FaceTime, Google. I'm not Google. Google Duo. Duo, FaceTime, Zoom, and Skype. And to answer the second part of your question, it's a day-to-day thing. That's why it's important to watch the news. I know you are teenagers, and that is probably the worst thing that I probably could tell you right now, is that you need to watch the news every day. But even if you only watch a 30-minute segment, you need to know what's going on in the world, because all these great artists, like when you talk about Charlie Parker and you talk about, and I'm going to cross genres. When you talk about Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Will Downing, Luther Vandross, they talked about a variety of subjects, but they also talked about what is going on in the periods that they were doing music. And that's the reason, like a record like Marvin Gaye, what's going on is timeless, because of the fact that it still relates to what the things that are going on, the social issues that are going on today. A lot of them are still were going on then as well. So it's a day-to-day, to answer your question, it's a day-to-day thing. This summer, alone, I've lost over 15 touring dates.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Due to cancellations, and so that is one thing about it. Just yesterday, I got 2 more calls. One World Theater, which is one of the top theaters in the country in terms of live performance. I was playing their Labor Day weekend. That is canceled. The Texas Jazz Festival, which is the longest running free jazz festival in the nation, they have canceled. I'm expecting Miami with Jazz Festival, which is in November. I'm expecting a call from them any day to say that they have canceled. So to answer your question, I think in terms of larger performances, it's a wrap on this year. We're going to look forward to next year, and hopefully, hopefully we have some brilliant minds like these young people that we have on the screen come up with a vaccine or some type of way that we can control this virus. In terms of small venues, I pretty much made a decision that because of the fact that I do want to protect myself as well as my family and everything, that I'm probably not going to do nightclubs. Because it's inside most of the time. 90% of the time they're inside. And it's just, you're a little bit more vulnerable, especially being a horn player. You know, because you can't. It's very difficult. Even though they make some masks that can accommodate you, it's very difficult to play in that mask. Trust me, I've tried. And then you're still vulnerable. You're more, you put yourself at risk. So you got to kind of scale that down. So it goes back to the thing that what I see happening the rest of this year is that I got to adapt, which is what jazz music has been all about, is adapting. It was nothing comfortable about people like Lester Young or Dexter Gordon learning how to play bebop when Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, and Thelonious Monk came up with that style of music. It wasn't comfortable for them, but they adapted to that, to that change. And then the music, because the music constantly changes. So the musician has always adapted.
Right.
I hope I answered your question okay.
You did. You answered my question. Yes.
A question for you, Mr. Turner. Can you maybe step back a second and maybe explain how they calculate the streaming? Maybe one time they used to give us royalties, for your music, but now everything is.
It's horrible.
I didn't mean to throw you on the spot like that, but I know you mentioned streaming, and I know some of the students is,
Okay. Okay, the way it's going down with me, without getting too, personal, because I really, I'm not a fan of streaming, but that it is what it is.
Right.
It is what it is, and it's going to go back to something else that I was telling you, I talked about earlier. Streaming, CD Baby is handling all my digital distribution. Okay, so there are several companies out there, by the way, that handle digital distribution. Now, let's put that out there. I chose CD Baby because they were the ones that were existing when I first started making CDs, and they were the ones that handled all the business. Like, for an example, I did a Grover Washington Jr. composition on my rap. I did Santa Cruz. They handled all the royalties and took it out of the monies that they send back. And they send me a statement. And I have to read the statement and say, okay, this is how much this record, sold. And this is your percentage, CD Baby. This is Grover's percentage or whatever, whatnot. But to answer your thing about streaming is typically, and you guys do the math on this, and I'm going to be honest with you, I just stopped doing the math on it because it doesn't make sense to me. Every time your song is, like every time you pull up an artist song, they see 0.001 cent. You heard me right, 0.001 cent. Now, okay, you said, Mr. Turner, you told me a few minutes ago that it's important for me to understand this, so you can understand the mathematics of it. So when you get a check for $300 and $400, that means you're doing a lot of streaming. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people have streamed your music. Now, the most important thing with me, though, which will go back to, I believe in connecting everything with academics, it goes back to geography. The most important thing to me when I see that statement is that where is it being streamed? Okay, I have 20 people that stream me in Kansas City, or I had 30 people stream me in London. That lets me know how I can market myself and try to, get to, those areas to perform, which is where the musician is making the money after this is over with. Not right now, but, and that goes back to understanding, being able to read, and being able to logically figure out stuff. If I'm, it doesn't make sense if I'm, if I'm doing well in Kansas City, to say, oh, I'm gonna play Kansas City on July 24th, and then I'm gonna play London, England on the 25th because I'm doing well. It doesn't make sense in terms of time, which is mathematics. It doesn't make sense in terms of even the physical toll on your body, because what we try to do as musicians is routing, which has everything to do with geography. You know, so if I play Kansas City, my whole swing would say, okay, I'm gonna do Kansas City, I'm gonna do St. Louis, I'm gonna do Chicago, Milwaukee, Detroit. That's what I would try to do. And they call that, in the music business, we call that routing, meaning that you have locations that are not in the same market, but they're close enough that you possibly can get there in a day comfortably. And then you can add up all that money. It goes back to mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
But streaming, the way I feel about it is that, okay, I talked about the negative side of it for a musician, okay? But the positive side of it is that everybody has access to your music and it's in their pocket via the cell phone. Hope I answered your question, Mr. Robinson.
Yes, sir. Very well, very well.
But do the
Thank you.
kids have any questions?
I'm not a kid, but I have a question.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to know, where do you see yourself, either, you know, in the near future or further along, in possibly creating a platform for live, you know, performances, you know, of course, complying with safety protocols and things like that, to stream out to the public or to reach the masses?
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. My management and I are currently investigating a situation that that we're going to do, you know, a concert with my band, and it's going to be called Kyle Turner Social Distance Concert. And what it is that it's a company, an East Coast-based company, that will take your video of your concert, your performance, and they will market it for you. And you suggest, you know, the areas that you want the video marketed, you know, like where we're starting is at on all these dates. I told you I missed over 15 dates this summer so far. So we're gonna start in those markets with people that have already bought tickets and give them an opportunity to say, hey, you can buy tickets. You know, we're gonna sell them over the internet for a very low price, because we're trying to get a lot of quantity, as you know, we're trying to get a lot of numbers. And people are not working, so we want to make it, you know, cost effective. And this company is going to stream it, and they have access where we in real time can see how many people, you know, that little hourglass thing that they put on there when you're doing a donation. You see how many people, you can see in real time how many people are paying for this concert, and then they take a percentage, which goes back to mathematics, like I was talking about. Now, that is money you can count, because if they're taking 25%. So I know for every $100, I'm gonna see 75. You know, so you know, so that is what I'm doing in terms of performance in the future. But right now, the way things are, is very difficult. You know, the streaming thing is great, you know, and it's allowing, you know, music fans all over the world to have access to your music, which is cool, because like if you streaming, you possibly can't get to Houston to see me play, but you can get on the internet and see. So, you know, you're still getting the music out to people. However, you know, it's not the same as the live performance experience. It's not the same. It's not the same energy. My manager was telling me, he was saying, man, when we do this thing, you know, find you know, 8 couples that you can trust and spread them out over the room where you play, because it's hard to play to an empty room, because as musicians, we do feed off the energy of the audience. So yes, we are working on that, and I've done like one-offs, you know, like Ben Tanker, Marion Meadows, Joy Somerville, and myself. We did a promotion for the Miami Jazz Festival right at the beginning of the pandemic, where each one of us played a song and we did an interview, kind of, you know, sort of like what we're doing right now. But it's not the same. The live performance thing is, you know, is it for me. I love it so much. And what I love most about it, and it goes back to preparation, is that you got one shot to get it right. One shot to get it right. And then if you don't get it right that time, then you got to, you know, the next night, you got to make sure you get it right. You know, you have one shot to make sure that you're the best you can be on that particular day. Any other questions?
I have one.
Okay.
What was it like working with the other artists?
Every situation, man, with me is that I like to learn. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It was a learning experience. Working with Johnny Taylor, with that being my first touring gig, I learned what it's like to be on a tour bus. You know what I'm saying? That's the way we travel. You know, I learned everything that was involved in making sure the bus driver got enough rest, make sure that you know, that you have it in your budget for gas. And a bus burns a whole lot of gas. You know, these are things that you add into your agreement with whoever you're playing for. Making sure that that you time, you know, it's going to take me, it might take me 12 hours to drive from Houston to Atlanta, but if I'm traveling with a band, it might take 15, because we do need to stop and eat, and we need to stop and get gas, and, you know, you factor in all that type of stuff, you know. So that I learned from that situation. Then my next major thing was with Luther Vandross, which was a totally different thing, because we flew everywhere. So I learned the importance of being on time, because you need to be at the airport at a certain time in order to catch that flight. Everything with him, and he was very, 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 very a perfectionist. So everything with him was schedule, 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 schedule. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And watching his organization actually is how I run my organization, because you know, to me, he was one of the best that did it. So I learned from him on the business side of it. I learned from him just his daily walk, how he rehearsed a band, how his expectations, I watched his road manager, how they would prepare trips, and how they would prepare, you know, the logistics, hotel, all that type of stuff. So I learned quite a bit from that situation. Who was I speaking to?
Malachi.
All right, Malachi. All right, that was a great question. But that's what I learned. And then, you know what? I take this. I'm gonna say one more thing. With every great musician I played with, they had one thing in common: that they were extremely hard on themselves. Well, a couple of things in common. They were extremely hard on themselves, and they prepared to be the best that they can be on any given night. You know, Joe Sample was still practicing a whole lot, you know, before he passed away. Even when he couldn't play anymore. You know, Kirk Whalum, as great as he is, you know, and he posted something on YouTube that just totally blown me away. He did a Robbie Coltrane transcription that he had been working on for 5 months, and it totally blew me away. But when you have all the Grammys that he has and all the success that he still finds it very important for daily practice. If I was to call him right now, he's practicing. I know that. You know, he and I are pretty close, so I know that. And if I call him, he'll pick up, because he knows that I'm not going to just call during this time and it's not important. But if I ask him what he's doing, he's going to say, man, working on these scales.
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm thinking about this format and how it might possibly be used to help you raise money, because there is sort of an intimacy to it that you don't have in a live concert. If you have like a sidebar where people can donate money, or they could say, I'll give you $100 if you mention my wife's name, or, you know, there's a way, you know, there's a way, or if you get product placement even, you know, like if you had a bottle of Coca-Cola behind you right now, you know, maybe Coca-Cola and Beans and Rice would, you know, sponsor your live stream. I mean, it seems like there should be some opportunities within this.
Well, yes, you're absolutely right. There are several opportunities now. Now, one thing that has happened so far, okay, I have received funds via, because the transfer funds are very simple now too. You got Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Zelle. You have all these different ways where money can be transferred very quickly and very easily. I played Happy Birthday probably more now than I ever have
Yeah.
in the past few months than I might have done in a year, because people want to do something special for their loved ones. So they say, hey, I'm gonna send you X amount of dollars. Can you come on my Zoom birthday party, which is virtual, or whatever app they're using, and pop up and play Happy Birthday to my mom, or Happy Birthday to my wife, or so those things have existed during this pandemic for me. And you're absolutely right. I think I saw a concert. I'm trying to think who it was, and there was a sponsor. I'm not gonna say the sponsor because it's an alcohol sponsor, but the show was, the 45-minute concert was sponsored, and but it's about, with me, okay, I want to make sure that everything is correct when I go into that situation. If I'm going to do a band concert, meaning that the musician and the perfectionist in me as a musician want the production to be extremely tight, because the most important thing to me when presenting music is how you sound. Anytime I stand in front of a band, anybody that know me, I'm a stickler for tone and how the instrument sounds, because that's the first thing that people hear when you play note one, is how something sounds. So I guess that is my pet peeve in terms of, my challenge and what I have to do, because obviously, like in this format, if I was to play my saxophone, probably the first 2 or 3 notes you're not going to hear, because of the way this program is set up, in terms of, I don't know the technical word, Mr. Robinson probably can tell you that, but the microphone in most computers, or unless you have a great studio setup, is not going to, it's going to be some things missing in terms of lows, highs, mids, and then, like I said, the microphone is not going to pick up the first part of it.
Okay, he's talking about latency. When you play the instrument, and you hear like a delay, or you hear something that kind of comes back at you, that interferes with your playing or your psyche to try to play. So he's talking about the latency.
Okay, so that's my biggest issue, and some people don't care about that, but being a musician and being an artist, I want to be the best that I can be all the time. Actually, it's carried over into my personal life too. I want to, my daily walk, I just want to be the best that I can be with everything. That's one of the habits I got from being a musician, I guess. Did I answer your question? Everybody's on mute. Any
I have
questions?
a question.
Okay.
Okay, just a minute. Hold on.
Who am I speaking to?
Donovan, I'm about to turn on my camera now.
Okay, Donovan. You're a sax player, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So my question is, being a musician overall in general, are there still any like financial problems that come with a lot of these things? Like if you say you do go on tour, right, and you think you have this amount of money to travel around the world or do this, but you end up seeing that you don't, and so you're in a position where you end up getting stuck in one place, and it's kind of, it's a little hard to get out of.
Okay, that's a great question, man. That's a great question. Typically, the way it works, if I'm going to play the Kennedy Center in DC, and I'm negotiating a contract,
Mm-hmm.
I know I have 5 people that are musicians that are vital. Okay, they got to travel. Okay, the musicians got to be there. Then
Right.
typically, ideally, I would want somebody to do the legwork or the groundwork for me. So I would travel with one other person, being my personal manager or a road manager. Now, back to what you're talking about in terms of finances and getting stuck. That's where the mathematics come in. I know a round trip ticket for one person is going to be to go to, I'm using DC for an example, because I go there all the time. The round trip ticket is going to be approximately $450.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to multiply that by 6. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. If they're not paying for flights, a lot of times they pay for flights, but if they're not paying for flights, then I'm going to multiply that by 6. If they're paying for flights, in my contract, I'm going to make sure my ticket is round trip, and that it's on an airline that I don't have too many fees. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For an example, most airlines, like your United Americans, they're going to charge Delta. They're going to charge like $25, $30 a bag. You have to consider that because you're going out there to work. So most of us are going to have 2 bags. You follow me? So that needs to be included in the price that I'm paying my musicians, so they're not losing any money, in terms of what we do on the performance side. Okay, that's okay. 9 times out of 10, when you're traveling, you're gonna the promoter is responsible for your accommodations. However, in my contract, it says 4-star above hotel, because, and that's just from learning, because I put in there 6 hotel rooms, and I've been put up at some places that I end up coming out of pocket because I wasn't comfortable staying there. So that was just a learning thing for me. But all that is in the contract. So that's very important, okay? Anytime you travel, it is very important that you have a way to get there and a way to get back.
Okay.
So I haven't dealt with the getting stuck nowhere at no time. No time, because the fact that I do the business ahead of time. I do the mathematics ahead of time before I quote what it's going to cost the promoter.
Yeah.
What was the second part of your question? Because I think it was a 2-part question, wasn't it?
Oh no, it was a 1-part question. I was stating an example.
Yeah. Well, no, man, I've never gotten stuck. The way I look at getting stuck is like, if I'm going to go to Walmart, I'm gonna make sure I have enough gas to get to Walmart and back. To me, getting stuck is the equivalent of running out of gas. Around the corner from your house, or or in the middle of nowhere. On 59 somewhere, and you're trying to get downtown. You always plan. You always make sure that that you have everything in place. And now that doesn't mean that certain things not gonna go wrong. Now I'm gonna tell you when I've gotten stuck. Okay.
Okay.
Gotten stuck to me is the weather's bad and we can't take off on an airplane. And that has happened numerous times.
Do
Are
you
you there?
negotiate that in your contract, Kyle? Just that right there with the, do you negotiate that in your contract, like especially with Washington, D.C., you get there and you can't get back, and you can't fly back as far as hotel accommodations and all of that, you have to stay over a night or so?
Typically the airline, if you have to stay over a night or so, they take care of that.
Okay.
Now, in a contract, they do have things like you can't control. Like, say, if I'm trying to fly out of Philly, and I got to play in Houston, that's why you try to route close. And I got to play in Houston that next night, but we get the weather is inclement in Philly and we can't get out.
Yeah.
There are clauses, acts of God clauses in every contract.
Right.
In terms of things that you can't control. This pandemic is an act of God.
Right.
So that was both the promoter and myself were protected. I'm gonna use the One World theater contract that the concert that just canceled. We're both protected, and then we have to work together in good faith,
right,
on a date that can possibly work for both of us. But Typically, when you have to stay overnight, the airlines they're normally well these days you have to be a little persistent about it, but normally they will accommodate you.
Yeah.
Because they will accommodate you at someplace nice because they want you close to the airport.
Exactly. Well, you know, the reason I ask you that is because that did happen to us. I don't know if you remember when we carried the kids to perform in Lincoln Center, no, in Kennedy Center. And we couldn't even get to the airport. Everything just shut down, the whole city.
No.
All these things planned, but we couldn't even get out the at one time couldn't even get out of the hotel.
Right.
And so anyway, they accommodated us, but we supposed to have been going. But we had to wait until they could get us on that plane, and we wasn't expecting that.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you something. This is kind of funny, but it's kind of real too. Okay. And this is a true story. You can ask Jarreau Dunn. Jarreau Dunn is the guy that runs the American Jazz Museum in Kansas City. He has a venue connected to that called the Blue Room that I play like once a year. So Jarreau and I are negotiating a date, and he said December, and I was like, no way. I do not travel unless it's totally unavoidable or a very, very special event. I don't travel northeast from November to March.
That's what
I don't travel because those type of things do happen.
That's true. And this was in March, I think. It was the last of March. Yeah.
It snowed on the East Coast. It snowed up there until April. April and May. I'm going to tell you an interesting story, and this was like right when the pandemic first started happening, before they canceled the cruises. I play a cruise with this particular band called the Tom Joyner Cruise every year.
Yeah.
And the pandemic was happening, and it didn't take for most of the band. The only thing it took was for us to watch the news and saw that this one boat was stuck at sea because one person on that boat was sick.
Yeah.
And then that's when a business decision was made on my part, because of the fact that even if and this was before that it got really, as bad as it got, the virus had, had gotten as bad. My thing is that if one person on the boat gets sick, that means that I got to quarantine for 14 days. I have dates after these 14 days. I cannot miss 14 days of work, yet alone that's 14 days out of your life, and time is money. So that means that, okay, one person got sick. Okay, I'm gonna be away from my family for 14 days. So the stuff I typically do with my family or help my wife out with, for 14 days, she's on her own. And that's in addition to the 7 I was already out. Then and then you have obligations in terms of work after that. So, that was an easy business decision because a pandemic is also considered an act of God, where you contractually can say, hey, this is not a comfortable situation. This is something that is out of both of our control. What can we do about it? Can we negotiate? Can we renegotiate? A lot of times promoters are not going to want to renegotiate because of the fact they've already spent a deposit. They've sent you basically to answer back to your question, Donovan, also before I leave, when I travel, before I leave town, I get half my money.
Yeah.
So like for an example, if my budget for a particular gig is $5,000, okay? Upon the execution of the agreement, that is the legal term for it, meaning when everybody signs, shortly thereafter, within 24 to 48 hours, I'm going to see $2,500 in my account, or my manager will have it in his account, or whatever. We get half money up front at the once the contract is signed. And then the other is paid after sound check, like in between sound check and the gig. In my circumstance, some people, like I know some artists, as soon as they hop off the plane, they get their money, and they get their balance.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Hey,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Turner. Oh,
Yeah.
was there someone else? Oh, all right. So I'm gonna say I am an aspiring young musician, fresh out of high school, going off to college. I'm not interested in playing in jazz clubs, and I'm not all that creative, so I don't think I'll be a recording artist. But I can read a mean sheet of music. What job should I be looking for?
Jobs that require you to read a mean sheet of music.
Such as?
Okay. First of all,
Good one.
first
Oh,
of all,
wait.
I'm a
Charlie,
proponent.
you know better than that.
I'm just trying to get the information out there, you know? that they may not have to be, you know, there's different, you know, paths out there for musician. You know, it doesn't have to
Okay,
be.
well, first of all, I believe that every musician should know how to read, you know, and that's controversial. To me, it's just like not knowing how to read music is just like speaking English and can't read English. You know, reading music is, let me put it this way. The bigger the ensemble, the more vital to being able to read it is. If I'm playing by myself, I can just play. But if you're playing with two or more people, it makes it more organized. It connects the people because everybody, like, even if you and I are playing, There'll Never Be Another You as a duet, my phrasing is going to be different. Your articulation is going to be different. Our interpretations of the whole tune is going to be different. I might hear altered chords. You might be hearing a different set of altered chords because there's so many, the possibilities in terms of playing music is endless. So basically, music being on paper is a way of organizing musicians. Okay, so I think that every musician should be literate.
Mhm.
You know, it's goes back to speaking a language. It's communication. If I travel to Paris, I don't speak French. They can throw their music in front of me, and we're going to be able to play some music.
Yeah.
It's a universal language. It's a universal language. So I'm you know, there's a myth that jazz music is not vital for a jazz musician to be able to read music. No, I totally disagree. You look at Dizzy Gillespie, for an example. Him and Charlie Parker were writing stuff down. You know, they called Dizzy the intellect of the whole group because he would write everything down and document and everything, and those guys were reading. You know, so to me, there are intuitive geniuses, but most of the guys that we are reading about in history weren't intuitive geniuses. They were geniuses, but they also pursued the music, and they love music to the point they want to know everything and learn everything that they can about being a great musician, you know, and that includes reading. So to get back on your question, if I'm coming out of high school and I'm looking for work and my improvisation skills are not up, and I'm basically a musician that reads extremely well. There's several.
You know, maybe say like maybe their music, or even not a music major, but they want to keep their music up, maybe as like a part-time job or something, or you know something. You know.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said, if you read well, you'll be able to get, you know, session work, because the fact that a lot of times, especially horn section stuff or you know, rhythm section stuff, when you go in the studio, if you go in the studio with somebody that you're not typically around all the time, they're going to have charts.
And
okay.
and for the youngsters that might not know, can you describe session work?
That's when a person like like Mr. Robinson will call you into his studio and say, hey, I have this song. I need you to record this song. Okay. And actually, true story, this happened with he and I. I played on his CD. And when I got to the studio, he gave me sheet music to look at while he played the track. So I will have a roadmap. I know everybody use GPS now, but that was my roadmap in terms of what I need to do. And I could see exactly, instead of sitting there on something that, yeah, he sent me the MP3 the night before, but let's just be real about it. The night before is not enough time to, adequately prepare a performance, especially something that's going to be documented forever. So he had the sheet music there. So that made a lot of things. If I had a question mark, if that was a B or a C, which is a half step apart, oh, that was a B, not a C. Okay. So that in a studio session is vital. It saves time. And when you save time, it saves money, because studio time is not cheap.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's number one. True story with me. I got a call on December 30th this one particular year. Are you working New Year's Eve? This particular New Year's Eve, I was not working. That's the next day. Okay, good. Well, can you be at the Arena Theater at 5:00 p.m.? The OJs are performing that night, and they hiring the horn section out of Houston. You have access to a baritone saxophone. I wasn't gonna tell them that I did not, because I wanted that money. So I was like, yes, I can get a baritone saxophone. So my time that day was spent getting a baritone saxophone, but more importantly, I was like, okay, how hard can these OJ songs be? I grew up with that, So I get the baritone saxophone, and we meet at the Arena Theater. The OJ's MD walks out at 7:00. He said, "Here's the music." So it was an hour show. It's 15 of us. And remember I said, the more people it is, the more vital it is for everybody to be organized. So in bigger situations, you're gonna have sheet music. So we got the music at 7:00. They gave us 15 minutes to look through the music. At about 7:20, 7:30, we rehearsed from 7:30 to about 8:30. We went out took a break, went out on stage, started playing at 10:00. Performance. Our show. So if you can't read that situation,
yeah,
you're in a little bit of trouble. And then what typically happens is that they don't say nothing, they just don't call you back. So that's another option. What I've also found is that because of the fact that we're living in a situation where fine arts are being taken out of the schools, that the private lesson thing is an opportunity, because you can read. People are still seeking music knowledge. You can teach. People are going to always want to, if a musician is really, 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 really serious about their art and their craft, they're going to want to know everything they can about it. So they're going to find stuff that they can't do, and they're going to pursue people that can do it well to get help. So there are several avenues about it, but I believe that every musician should know how to read. There are some people that get a pass on that, and they're very fortunate that they can do well in music and well in terms of creatively and financially, in terms of not being able to read. But no, that's important. That's important, because the more in this business, the more you learn, the more you're going to earn.
I have something to say. I was talking to Charlie today about Henry, because one of their assignments is to listen to a piece and try to identify the notes just from hearing it. And, even though Henry has been learning how to read music since he was in 3rd grade or something, that nobody's ever really emphasized being able to identify the music by ear. And so Charlie was suggesting that we use the piano to try to kind of subsidize learning how to play the trumpet and being able to hear those chords. Did you play the piano at all at any point? And
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, and it is still a valuable tool. It is still a valuable tool. What's up, Mr. Sparks?
What's happening, man? How are you, sir?
I'm all right.
You
I was
just
going
know.
to say it's good seeing you, Mr. Sparks. We've got to introduce you the next
See you.
master clinician.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but to back to this question, yes, I started on piano, and
Me too.
my piano skills are very basic, very basic. However, to answer your question, it's very important. It's very important that you be able to read as well as to play by ear, because the deal is this: is that that's what people hear. You know, it's sound. That's what we should be more sensitive to sound than anybody as a musician. Now, everybody, in terms of being able to play by ear, you know, we have different levels of that. But with technology, which we spoke about earlier, they have different apps and stuff that makes things extremely easy. They have one called AnyTune, that all these hard Charlie Parker lines that fly by, I'm able to slow them down and the pitch doesn't change, and I can get note by note. I recommend that for younger musicians any musician that is trying to learn how to transcribe something, or any musician that's trying to learn how to play by ear. That is an excellent tool because it slows it down slow enough where you can actually hear it. And it's always a situation where I teach, and when you come in my situation, I always say accuracy over speed. Playing fast, that just requires practice. But being accurate, you can learn something fast and wrong, and then it takes a lot longer to correct that mistake. Mm-hmm. So slow it down. That's what I would tell the students. Slow it down. Like I said, they have several tools now that you can do that. And then don't do it only when you have to have an assignment. Do it all the time.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine, his name is Byron Bardo, and he learned how to read later. He's a guitar player. A lot of guitar players learn how to play by ear first, but he learned how to read later. He said what he used to do is sit by his radio. On Monday, he might listen to the country western station and try to play everything he heard. Then on Tuesday, he might listen to R&B and try to play everything he heard. And then listen to a jazz station, try to play on Wednesday or whatever. He would alternate days. And what that did for him, it developed his ear because, first of all, he's trying to play everything he's hearing. And then also it built his repertoire because you couldn't miss him on nothing. Another good place to start. How old is the musician you're speaking of?
Ellen?
You muted, Ellen.
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. It's Henry down there, Henry L.
Okay.
He just turned
Hey, man. Let me ask you this. So do you have problems playing by ear?
Actually, their assignment is transcription.
Oh,
They're learning. I'm basically teaching them basic music theory through transcription. Mm-hmm. So we started with form, and then they're going to go on to rhythm and melody, then harmony, and basically understand why these chords sound the way they do while they're learning what these chords are.
Well,
so I had them pick a song they wanted to transcribe and go from there.
Okay, first of all, I love what you just said because that's excellent, because the bottom line, half of it is knowing what a major chord sound like, what a minor chord sound like, what a diminished chord sound like, and what an augmented chord sound like. You have to know that. And maybe when you hear that is a class they teach in college. I think, Mr. Sparks, this is your freshman year, right? Ear training?
No, I didn't teach ear training, but I took ear training for many years. So all of us did that. But yeah, you're right.
So I got ear training in theory, I think theory 2 and 3.
Okay, well, but the thing is this, is that it's very important regardless of the genre of music you're playing, okay? Now, with transcription, and it's funny that we having this conversation because there's a big debate whether you should transcribe and write down what you're playing, what Charlie Parker played. or should you put it up here? A good friend of mine who is an excellent pianist by the name of Jarreau is a proponent of writing it down, because he takes it a step further, which is exactly what you're doing, is saying, okay, even though Charlie Parker wasn't saying, okay, I'm gonna play A minor chord here, he didn't think that. He was just playing music and being creative. It is good to know that, okay, well, he played an A minor chord here, but he used the B as a passing tone. It's good to be able to analyze and analyze what the greats have done. So yes, it's important to be able to hear that. And you have the tools where you can slow it down. You have, and actually you have books, hold on. You got books with transcriptions all day long, and it makes stuff, the transcriptions make stuff easier. However, beware, some of those might not be correct. It's just like a real book. You got a real book, some of those chords are questionable.
Yeah.
So you still have to rely on your ear. Kirk Whalum, like I mentioned to you, he learned that hard Robbie Coltrane solo during the quarantine, and he said that he found it. It was some kid's senior project in college, so he did read it, but to be able to play it is a whole nother animal too. But yes, the piano is a great tool, but slowing everything down to where you can really comprehend it and hear it is the way I teach. Now, if you want to do it the way Bird them did, they drop the needle. They play it, they pick it up and learn that part of it. And they put the needle back down on the record, and
But
Did
it's
that
a
answer the
lot
question?
of internet videos that could help the kids too. I mean, it's a vast, it's real wide out there where everybody can get something in it.
Yep, you're absolutely right. But like I said, that app, AnyTune, is excellent. And I use it in my practicing. If it's something, because I'm talking about even there are some lines that you're going to look at, even if it's written down, you're going to be like, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
But you rely on this, and if you're able to slow it down to where you can really comprehend it. I kind of equate it to driving. If you're driving down the freeway, and if you're driving 80 miles an hour, you might pass a billboard and you say, okay, that was a billboard. And you might get parts of it. But if you're driving 20 miles an hour, chances are you're gonna get more of that billboard and understand more of that billboard, because you take it, you're able to take it in because you're going slower. Henry, did that answer your question, buddy?
Yes, yes, it did.
What transcription are you working on?
I'm doing Sir Duke by Stevie Wonder.
Oh yeah, that's a good one, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, their transcription assignment was essentially a pop tune they wanted to learn. So their end product is essentially going to be a lead sheet.
Oh yeah, definitely, and that's important, man. That's important because guess what? And since I have them here, we spoke about the more musicians it is, the more vital it is that people are able to read, which goes back to that lead sheet and being able to write stuff down. Band leader, if you're going to be a band leader. Mr. Sparks has done that Motown show. Can you imagine doing that show, Mr. Sparks, without no music? Everybody playing by ear?
No, it's very impossible. And in fact, when we did do the show and there were some people who didn't read as well as others, it became a whole situation. And then also with a group that large where you're talking about singers, a whole big band, and singers who just, they just sang, but they didn't really know about the music and arrangements. It was it was very difficult. And as a drummer, I would always I was the kind of person, I tried to do it diplomatically, but some people didn't think I did it diplomatically. But I would question because, you know, they would come up with impossible segues that didn't make any sense. And then when we, and they weren't written correctly. So then we would have to, you know, to do that. And that's something that, you know, that you mentioned, that, and it's so very important to be able to read. And I always would say a lot of times to students, imagine if you met somebody who was so intelligent and they would talk to you about everything off the news and all that stuff. And then you gave them a newspaper and you say, hey, wow, did you see this right here on the newspaper? And then they would look at you and bewildered and disgusted and say, wow, man, I can't read. They're like, what? And so, you know, that's what happened. That's why it's so important, because you could play really well. And sometimes people feel like that you play really well and they just assume you can read. Oh, okay. And then you get in that situation. It's like, okay, here you go. As you said, Mr. Turner, all right, you know, here's a chart. I want to do this tune tonight on the gig. You know, here you go.
Oh, that happens regularly.
Oh yeah, it happens regularly, and you're not even rehearsing. There ain't gonna be no rehearsal. You know, you're just like, oh yeah, I want to do this one. You know, here, and then all of a sudden, because you know you're reading, you can't read well, or you don't keep your reading up. That's the whole thing. We can read well, and we might be in many situations where you don't have to read, but then there's going to be that one situation. I equate church. I play at a church now that is a contemporary type of Christian church. And even though a lot of people don't read, I write a chart out for myself on the music of what I need to do. Now, because I have volunteers, some of them might not play their chart right, but if I don't know the tempo, and I got the tempo written down and everything, if I don't know the tempo and if I don't play it right, or if I haven't added that little bass drum or snare drum thing, or a difference when I go from the verse to the changes. See, that's the thing about reading, and especially for drummers, but for everybody. If there's not a certain roadmap that you, as you said, Kyle, yourself, that you don't put together and don't know how to do it, then that hurts you. So young people, it's very important for you to be able to use those different things and carry them on.
And I like to piggyback off of that, because I'm going to give you a very real scenario, okay, in terms of the reading thing. Wednesday night, I played my gig. Thursday night, I played with Mr. Sparks. Friday night, I played with another different band. Saturday night, I played with my band, my urban project, not my jazz project, my urban project. Then Sunday, I'm playing at church. How difficult is it to remember all of that music? But if it's written down, you have it there. You see what I'm saying? You know, like a situation, like if I had to play at Mrs. Sparks' church, yes, I will prepare and go through the music before I get there. But there, as a friend of mine said, if we rehearsed at the church on Tuesday and we playing Sunday, there's a whole lot of days in between. Mm-hmm. You know, but if I have that music in front of me, it makes it work out. Because you're going to be, you know, as a professional musician, you want to be able to play in as many different musical situations as possible, because that's what keeps it interesting.
Absolutely. And I'm going to add this. For about 3 years, I played at Lakewood playing percussion. And then sometimes I would play a drum before they moved to the Compact Center. And we had a rehearsal the hour before the service. And there was the book. And the musical director would talk to you in the headset. And that was it. So if you could read, as Mr. Turner said, you might finish that day, but they would tell you, thank you very much, but you wouldn't be back, because you had to read, and you had to read and interpret and make you feel like that you've been doing, whether it was a new song or old song. And sometimes new songs and old songs, as Mr. Turner said, we're playing all kind of music every day. So with different people. So we have to have something that gives us that ability to read the roadmap, you know, and we don't have GPS that's just don't talk to our ears. You know, we got to read the map. You know?
Exactly. And one thing that you did say, and this is something that definitely happens on my gig. You can ask any of my band members. I will come in with a chart, and the only thing that we're going to discuss is how we're going to start and how we're going to finish.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
right.
everything else, you know, and like I'm gonna open up this section, that section D, we're gonna open it up for guys to play solos, and then we're gonna take it out. Now, and I'm gonna give you this. It wasn't funny when this happened, but I'm gonna give you a real life Kyle Turner story. So, freshman year, and I'm glad you said that out of high school going to college. That this is a perfect example. So, second semester of my freshman year at Jackson State. One of the instructors, he would always do the rodeo in Jackson, Mississippi. Okay, so the clarinet player, you know, got sick. You know, clarinet is a B-flat instrument. So he said, man, you got a soprano saxophone, man. Why don't you come in and play these clarinet parts? You know, I'm gonna pay you such and such and such. Come in and play these clarinet parts, you know, for the rodeo. I'm like, how hard that gonna be? You know? Because I'm hot shot saxophone player out of Houston, Texas. All that. Man, I got to this gig, and I got my little soprano saxophone. I looked through the music, and I kind of fingered through it. I knew it was difficult, but the tempos were twice as fast because it's a rodeo, and they were all marches, and you only playing like for 7 seconds. So after the third or fourth song. And no song ending, and I'm like, well, I missed that one. I missed that one. Then it really makes you get on the thing. So you know what? This would never happen to me again. And it was one of the most embarrassing things that had ever happened in my music career, but it was necessary. And he said that's why he called me in to do it. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's vital. It's important. Transcription, if you're going to being able to transcribe and understand and read music and write music is important. When you transcribe, look at other people. When you transcribe and you write music on staff paper, look at music so you're not putting a stem on the wrong side of the notes. And and that when you're writing, are you not putting the stem in the wrong direction? And y'all know what I'm talking about, you know, that fourth line D with the stem going up, you know, that type of thing, you know.
It's funny you would say. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Mr. Turner and Mr. Robinson and Mr. Sparks and Mr. Onayemi, all of this came, and I'm thankful all of you for talking about this, because to bring it closer to home is when we had the opportunity to perform with Theater Under the Stars, Addams Family, and we had to, and they weren't playing, and they had laid out the music, and we had to bring in, you know, a lot of our kids weren't able to meet the task because they were not able to read. That's the whole purpose of what Mr. Manayami is trying to do now. So we won't get back in that type of situation again, not being prepared for when the opportunities present themselves. We were fortunate enough, and I'm gonna give credit at that time to Ms. Browne. We were fortunate enough to get through it with standing ovations, but it was like, it was hard. It was, you know, and we got through it, but it was very, very difficult because our kids weren't prepared. They did not know how to read. They did not know what the things that Mr. Onayemi is trying to teach them now. They weren't prepared, and not just them. Some of the instructors that we thought would know how to read music, they just couldn't do it. So we'll try to get our kids prepared for any opportunity to present themselves. And I want to thank y'all for y'all help, not just today and next week and the next week, but throughout the session. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, definitely. Hey, this is for all the students that are actually playing. Okay, you guys are a team. I want you to understand that you are a team. And when you don't do your part, you letting your teammates down. You know, I don't know if you're a sports fan. I'm a huge sports fan. If I don't practice well and prepare well, and I'm on a basketball team, and every time I come half court, I double dribble, I'm letting my team down. You follow me? So the deal is this: there's nothing wrong with not being able to play something today. You know, you go to a rehearsal and say, okay, I'm having trouble with this. But if you come the next day and you having the same problem, and that problem has not improved, then that's where the issue comes in. But Mr. Robinson, Ms. Browne, and Mr. Sparks, I know you're gonna understand where I'm coming from with this. A lot of time with young, and Mr. Nami, I know a lot of times with young musicians play stuff that they like to hear when they practicing, and they think that's practicing. Practicing is working on something that you can't do.
Say it again. Say it again. That is serious.
Totally
Practicing is something, playing is working on something that you can't do. If you are working on something that you do well, you're not practicing, you're just playing something you like to hear.
Preach.
That's right.
Totally agree.
And the thing is that when you practice something that you can't do, when you go back to the things that you can do, they'll actually be better because you've taken that time to really concentrate to try to work out something that you can't do. And that's the whole goal for doing that.
And I'm gonna add to that too, Mr. Sparks. When you work on something that you can't do, when you are able to do that, you are automatically a better musician.
Absolutely.
Because you were able to do something that you weren't able to do prior. So that made you, if I had problems playing Donna Lee, once I learned how to play Donna Lee, I'm automatically a better saxophone player because I'm able to do something on that instrument that I wasn't able to do prior. So every time you practice and you work on something that you can't do, once you accomplish that task, you are better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as a drummer, the whole thing for us is independence. So for you to be able to work on something that you can't do independently or play a tempo, you know, that a jazz tempo that is the Donnelly, Charlie Parker tempo. Once you can do that, then all of a sudden, man, you know, everything becomes easy.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, one of Conrad's mottos was that it's better to play or practice on something for 30 minutes than to practice on something for a whole hour and practice the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to learn that you know, a little bit like everybody's saying, to work on it 30 minutes than to practice on an hour or 8 hours a day and you practicing on the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Browne, you're awfully quiet down there.
I'm here.
You're awfully quiet.
Well, I just like for those kids, you know, if they're going to practice something that's unfamiliar to them, make sure that you're practicing slowly. Start it off slow and get it under your fingers. Then work it up. And it's almost as if your fingers have its own brain and your fingers would just automatically just go. So make sure you practice slowly first.
You know what? And you're absolutely right. And what I call it is muscle memory.
Right.
Correct.
You know, if I ask you to touch your nose, you're going to automatically touch your nose without thinking about it because your brain triggers that. That's the same way that's what Ms. Browne is saying, that you automatically, when you practice and work on something long enough, your brain automatically does so. I find myself, and this is probably a situation, and horn players, especially Donovan, you know, or saxophone players, y'all can relate to that. Playing the instrument, when we're dealing with alternate fingerings, there are several different ways to play different fingerings. And what I found is that sometimes when I'm given a lesson to explain the best way to play something, I might have to play it to figure out the way how I would do it because of the fact that there are so many options. There's so many options. But you're only going to get that by playing a lot and your muscle memory happening because I was telling for a saxophone player, I was telling somebody to play side B flat, when actually, when I started playing it myself, I was playing a bis B flat. You know, that I automatically went to that. But that's muscle memory, stuff that you automatically do to get the same result. Anybody under 20 got anything they want to ask or say?
Under 20.
Well,
I
I'm
got
not
to tell
under
you
20,
all.
but let me just say this. For those who are under 20, please take these workshops very seriously. I mean, this, you know, if we were not in the pandemic, then we would be in person. But since we are like this, and it is what it is, take this very seriously and put this stuff in your heart, put it in your memory, and work on the things that we're talking about. Because one day you're going to be able to use all of this stuff.
And I want to add to that, and in terms of those of you that are shy, you have me 24/7, okay? 24/7 access. You can email me at KYLETURNERSR okay?
And we can send that out on the email each week. We can send that out. Is that, and if anybody else is
And
open,
I just put it in the chat down there too.
okay, yeah,
now,
and anybody else who's open to us, we can do that.
Now I'm going to be 100% with you. I'm kind of horrible with phone calls, but I'm absolutely great with text messages.
That's true.
713-320-1381.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and I would love to answer your questions.
Yeah.
And the same with any parents that are listening. The same, you know, you have access. If you have questions about how you might want to encourage your child, I'm here 100. And because this is important to me, especially now that we're in this pandemic and access is very limited in terms of information.
You know, and pretty much just like Ms. Browne said, I really pray that you guys understand and appreciate what you guys have here. All these people that were here, I know that Mr. Sparks has signed off, and he'll be here next week on the 25th. And we'll be sending out information on that. But, and then Mr. Robinson and Mr. Vet Robinson, and thank you, Dee, for tuning in. They will be here on the 1st of August. And then after that, it will be Mr. Calhoun, Jarreau Calhoun. So, I mean, y'all have just a wealth of information that's been from some very seasoned professional musicians that have traveled the world and really taken their time out to give to you. And I just want you all to appreciate all that's been done for you, and Ms. Browne, who's had her leadership here, and now Mr. Onayemi, who's really trying to get you guys to think and be independent thinkers. And so you won't be, I mean, you be prepared for anything, because all of this prepare you for whatever you want to do. You can use all this information that you're getting to do anything you want to do in life. It doesn't have to be necessarily a musician, but you'll be using those skills that you receive, that discipline that you receive from this to be a success in any field that you do. But you got to take it serious. And you're really being blessed, guys. You need to look at what you're getting. I'm sorry.
Can I say something? And you're absolutely right. The work ethic and discipline you get from playing music it will carry over in all areas of life. My top, okay, I'll put it this way, my top 4 saxophone students that I've had that just have recently graduated in the past 2 years, all 4 of them are engineers.
Yeah.
All 4. They still play, and saxophone provided them an opportunity to go to school and study their field. You know, and all 4 of them still play, but because of the fact that they they got that information, they were able to get scholarships, which took a huge strain financially off of their families, because you want to be able to start something and complete it. You know, you never know what challenges you might have during a 4-year period in terms of finances. You know, nobody even a year ago could have predicted this pandemic that would have 40 million people, you know, doing unemployment right now. You know, nobody would have, predicted that. However, with my student, one of my students that's at Prairie View right now, he's not worried about it because he got money. He got scholarship money.
He's supposed to be showing up today.
You know who I'm talking about.
He's supposed to be showing up today. He just graduated. He got one of our scholarships, and he's doing well. And he's just as proficient on the piano as he is on the saxophone.
Well, no, I wasn't talking about that one.
It's another one. Which one?
You're talking about Mr. Muhammad, right?
Yeah, Mr. Muhammad. Yeah.
He's just going into his second year.
Yeah.
But that's another example. He worked hard, and surprisingly, he didn't start playing saxophone until the end of his 10th grade year. A lot of people don't know that. You know, and he got a scholarship on saxophone because he worked hard. Everything that I gave him, he brought back. If he couldn't do it, the next week he brought it back, and that goes back to what you guys need to do. When you get this information, come back prepared. Come back prepared. Don't take it lightly.
Yeah. Was Mr. Bell one of your students?
Yeah, Marcus Bell. Yes. That's one of the people I was talking about.
Yeah. And he was a student. He was one of our students here in Conrad Johnson. So, I'm
very proud of him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of him as well.
Yeah, right. And he was fabulous as a student here.
Question. How are you able to get somebody who just started playing an instrument in 10th grade to be able to get a scholarship within 2 years? That's crazy.
Okay, now what he did do it, and it piggybacks off of what you said, okay? First of all, he was a piano player. So when he first sat down, I knew he played piano. And he said, I want to learn how to play saxophone. So the reading part was not an issue because he already knew how to read treble clef. So that was one step that did not have to happen. And I can't take credit for it. I just told him what to do. And every week he came back and he had done it. I'm just being, and he would have questions, one thing I require in my lessons is that we're going to start the lesson out with 3 things that you want to ask me. 3 things that you ran across in the past week that was a challenge to you that you want to ask me. That's one of the things I start my lessons out with. But with Mr. Muhammad, everything I gave him, he came back. And I equated to putting food on your plate. And I would tell him, he would come back and we schedule to do an hour lesson. He has ran through everything in 30 minutes. And I would tell him, I said, I'm not giving you enough food. I need to put more food on your plate. Because he comes back, he would come back and he would come back and play it. He'd come back and play it. So it was about preparation, He had that whole thing that, that he wanted to make sure that he was on top of things.
Kyle, I think that goes back to Conrad's theory, his principle too. He would say he doesn't teach children, he teach musicians. And that's what it goes back to. There's no excuse because if you're a child, you have to be able to perform at a level that goes with just like you said, practicing and being prepared and practicing at home and coming to the sessions ready to rehearse.
Right. Now, young musicians, I want to say this to you, okay? A lot of times, we say that, okay, you need to invest this amount of time on practicing, you gotta practice for 2 hours every day. All right. Now, a lot of young musicians, when they hear that, they like, oh man, I don't have 2 hours a day. So rather than do something, they don't do nothing. that's not cool either. You know, if you don't have 2 hours to invest that day, invest the time, you know, the time that you can invest, because something is better than nothing. Also, nobody has ever told you 2 hours straight. You know what I'm saying? You know, if I have a day that I practice 6 hours, typically my horn might be out all day, but it's not 6 hours straight, if that makes any sense. You know, I might get up in the morning and work an hour and a half on something, go watch First Take Stephen A. Smith on, you know, on ESPN, come back at noon, work another 2 or 3 hours, and then play another 2 or 3 hours. And then you have done a whole lot of stuff, but it's not just at one block, period. You know what I'm saying? I might say I'm gonna work on scales when I, you know, from 8 to 10 or 8 to whenever, 8 to 9. We said it's an hour. I'm gonna work on scales, 8 a.m. to 9. Then 1 to 2 p.m. I'm gonna work on my etudes. And then from 6 to 7, I'm gonna work on Charlie Parker stuff. I've invested 3 hours, but it wasn't a strain where I'm making myself looking at the clock. Oh man, I got another hour and a half to go. It's still 3 hours. You follow me? You know, but you know, you guys are getting great information. I really like what's happening with you in terms of harmony and the transcriptions and being able to, and the ear training aspect of what you guys are getting. So don't take that for granted, because that is vital.
One of the things I wanted to note is that I'm just a parent and I'm not a musician at all, but I'm really getting a lot out of these master classes, just because it's teaching me how to listen to music better too, I think. And I always have more questions than the kids do, and I'm just holding my tongue not to ask questions. That dominates this whole thing.
Be careful. Be careful.
Information helps everyone.
Yeah, you be careful. You might go to a jazz concert and say that should have been a B flat and he played a C. Be careful.
Well, one of the things that I'm listening to and I'm thinking about is when I watch either rock or rap or jazz or any kind of music, about the singers who kind of always get they usually get most of the credit for the band. And I'm wondering if they do all this type of training, musical theory and training to understand how to work with the bands, or if the bands are just expected to sort of support them wherever they are.
It depends. It depends. Let me put it this way. Whoever is the person out front, that's who's going to get the attention. Whoever's out front, that's automatically. So that's why when you go to you might go to a Billy Cobham concert, and Billy Cobham has his drums in the middle of the stage out front, and everybody's supporting him. You know what I mean? But whoever's out front is going to get the attention. Now, in some cases, you know, some of those guys are musically literate, in other cases they're not. And I'm gonna use Beyonce. Beyonce went to the High School of Performing and Visual Arts, so I know she took piano classes. I know she took voice lessons, because that's what's required in that curriculum, you know. But there might be other, and I'm gonna even use Lizzo. You know, you know, she plays flute. She's not very well known as a flute player, and I don't know her skill level on flute, but you know, she made a point to you know, display that she does play flute, and talked about being in a band in her high school. So
and she sounds really good on that flute.
She really does.
She sure does.
You know, so there, you know, there, it just depends, you know. And then you have some people that have been very successful and you know, through music, that couldn't tell you a treble clef from a bass clef, you know. But you know, my thing is that if you're going to pursue music, and I've always been like, I want to make a career that spans over a number of years. And you know, and during this career, in my career, I've played, I've toured, I've taught in the public school system for 15 years. I'm in a different space and, you know, a different season of my life where I'm doing something else now, you know, and I'm sure this is not the last season of what I, you know, my journey, you know, but the more things you're able to do, the more, you know, that's what makes it interesting. You know, I'm you know, back to the listening thing. Okay. I'm a DJ at KTSU right now. And of course, you know, as a musician, I have well, you can look behind me and yeah, I listen to music all the time, you know, and have a huge library of music. But at the same time, it has required study as well, you know, in terms of keeping up with what's coming out now and a whole lot of listening. So some of the same things that you're saying that you're doing now and that you're paying attention to now is just stuff that I've paid attention to, and even I'm paying attention to it now, but I have to put on a different hat too, because I can't listen as a radio jock. I can't listen to music like I do as a musician.
Right.
Nobody under 20 has talked in 20 minutes. Young folks.
I think they're processing it.
They processing it.
It's a lot being thrown at them. So I think.
Okay, I want each one of them to give me one question, and then I know they're ready to go and get on them Xboxes. That's what the deal is.
Well, see, you know, it's interesting that we're talking about the practice time. They can spend 2 or 3 hours on the Xbox, but they can't spend 2 or 3 hours on the horn.
Uh-oh.
But see, yeah, but you know what? The deal is the deal. Hold on for a second. My doorbell ring. Hold on for a second. Sean.
You know while we're waiting for Kyle to come back, guys.
Okay.
Let me thank.
Give me just a second.
Okay, let me just take the time to thank some of our guests that have come in, like Miss Robinson D. Robinson. I want to thank her for taking her time to come in. I also see Dr. Wills, one of our committee members, who's coming back with us. I'm thankful for that. And praise the Lord. I see Mr. Charles Wilson. And that's a blessing. Charles is an engineer, just retired from NASA, and he played the trumpet. He's also Conrad's nephew. And I'm thankful. Thank you, Charles, for coming in. I appreciate it. And I'm sure the kids do as well. I just want to thank Charles Wilson, Kyle, and Dr. Wills for coming in on while you were gone.
Okay, good deal. Well, hey, thanks for being a part of this, and everybody that's a part of it. Just I hope you got some. I hope I shared some information. I know it's kind of informal, but I believe that having a conversation that goes both ways is most effective.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, I have like one more question.
Yeah.
So my question is, say that you're playing multiple instruments, right? Mm-hmm. How would you keep up with playing multiple instruments? So like learning multiple instruments. Like how would you keep up with doing that?
I'm dealing with that right now. Okay. I've been practicing flute since the pandemic, and flute and saxophone kind of relate in a lot of ways, but you have like real flute players like Miss Browne that make me not want to play, you know, because the fact that like she plays flute and she is a flute player, and I play flute and I sound like a saxophone player trying to play flute. You know, I sound like a saxophone player that's playing flute, you know. So the thing, man, is just that that was Donovan, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
What other instrument are you trying?
So I'm learning the drums. Like I'm already pretty good at the drums, but I want to actually learn how to play the drums. And then I'm also learning the piano.
Piano and drums?
Yep, piano, drums, and sax.
Well, that goes back to you want me to give you a politically correct answer, or you want me to give you my answer?
Your answer.
Okay, my answer is this: is that I talk in, I talk in scenarios. If you ask for more food on your plate, you just got to eat it all. So you made that decision that you want to be a multi-instrumentalist. So that's more food on your plate. So you got to invest that time, and you have to invest that time every day. Now, the way I go about it, I'm primarily a saxophone player. Okay, I recognize that, and that's where I'm going to invest most of my time. But what I've also realized that if I'm going to play flute, I got to touch that instrument every day. And Miss Browne can attest to that. She knows because every instrument has its challenges. And with flute, that's an instrument that I got to touch every day. If I skip a day, if I play flute today and practice my flute today and don't practice tomorrow, Sunday I'm starting back over trying to fix what I did today.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So your primary instrument is what?
Sax.
Okay, so more time should be invested in terms of playing saxophone, and then you got to make the time to pursue piano and drums. And because the fact that you say you are strong at drums, I would pursue it in that order: piano, then drums.
Okay.
I'd like to share something with you, Donovan.
Yes, sir.
Saxophone is your primary instrument, meaning that's your first instrument. However, piano is going to be the root of all the instruments. If you're going to be a music major, you will have a piano class, probably piano 1, 2, and 3, and maybe 4. You also will have a percussion class equally as well. But what's going to hunt you firstly is your primary instrument, not necessarily your secondary instruments. Okay, that's not to say don't learn the other instruments, but as Mr. Turner said, put your emphasis on your saxophone. You know what I'm saying? The other instruments are important, but the saxophone is going to be the primary instrument. Piano is going to be the root of everything that you do. You understand what I'm saying? It's going to be the glue that brings everything together, because you're going to have the melodic line there, you're going to have the chordal part there, and you're going to have the rhythm. The rhythm is the drums, the chordal is the harmonic. And the melodic line is going to be the melody. You understand what I'm saying? So if you really focus on what you're doing with the piano, with the saxophone, and then you understand the piano in terms of the chordal and the melodic line, that's going to help you to do the transcription of what you're doing, with Mr. Nyman. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
and I want to add to that too. If you have access to a piano, not a keyboard, there's a difference. Mm-hmm. If you have access to a piano, that is better, and I'm gonna tell you why. Now I have a keyboard in my house. That's what But if you have access to a piano, you're gonna hear stuff a lot differently because of the fact that you're hearing overtones.
Right.
And you actually hear everything that you hear the body of what you're trying to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I have one.
Okay.
Actually, Mr. Turner, we have actually spoken before. Miss Elfrida actually gave me your number because she and I go to the same church. And I'm the trumpet player trying to convert over to soprano saxophone. So do you have any tips for me?
Long tones.
She was the one who was supposed to take lessons from you like a year and a half ago. And I said, yeah, this is her.
Okay. Are you still going to play trumpet? That's my first question.
Yes.
Okay. With both instruments. Okay, first of all, trumpet is a very unforgiving instrument. Any brass instrument is unforgiving. If you don't deal with that every day, it will not only have a musical toll, but it would also have a physical toll, because the deal is this, is that you're dealing with metal and flesh. So what's going to give first? You know what I'm saying? You know, so, but it can be done. And I'm going to bring up a name. Well, actually, I'm gonna put it this way. Have you ever saw this R&B band called Brick? Band from the 70s, the 70s and 80s called Brick. I had the opportunity on the Soul Train cruise. Well, I've seen them several times, but the lead singer from Brick, he sings. He'll go pick up a trombone and play. He'll sing some more. Then he'll go pick up a flute and play. He'll pick up a saxophone and play, and he played trumpet. He played all 4 instruments in this hour and 15-minute concert. So it can be done, you know. But it's like I said, it goes back to that more food on the plate. Now, trumpet is your primary instrument, so you deal with that trumpet every day. But you know, at least do long tones on saxophone. If you're not gonna do anything else, say, okay, I'm gonna play long tones and I'm gonna run through my major scales. That should take about 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. At least do that. And guess what? The long tones can happen at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the scales can happen at 8 o'clock at night. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, but what I'm getting at is that you never neglect your primary instrument. But but if you're asking for more food on the plate, you just gotta, you know, I'm not gonna discourage anybody if they're hungry. You know what I mean? You know, so it can be done, but it's a lot more work. And when I tell you this guy, I'm saying, if you pull it up on YouTube, it's an R&B band. The band is called Brick. You pull them up on YouTube and watch a whole concert. You'll be amazed at the fact, because I've seen it several times and it still amazes me that, because you know that he's singing, he's putting one instrument down and he's singing again, same song. He might play trombone and flute in the same song. And I asked him, you know, about it, and it's just something he's been blessed with. I asked him about it. He said, man, I just do it. It's something I just been doing, so I just do it. You know, so that it can be done. A lot of discipline and a lot of work.
Oh, thank you very much, Dan.
Yeah, but in terms of soprano saxophone, that is the beast of the saxophone. You know, because that is the saxophone that plays the most out of tune. That is the saxophone that requires more muscle control in terms of armature. You know, so, you know, if, you know, that's kind of where we are.
I have a lot of work to do then. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's not going to, you know, right. You know, one thing about that, we have time to work now. And time to break a lot of ground in terms of getting a good foundation.
Right about that. We sure do got enough plenty of time.
Yep. Another thing is set goals. You know, even if your goal is, okay, I'm going to learn how to play bassoon, and by Christmas I want to be able to play on the Christmas program wherever. You know, set goals. You know, by Christmas I want to go on Zoom, and when we have a Zoom meeting with the Conrad Johnson Orchestra, I'm going to play such and such and such and such. Set goals. Henry, set goals, man. You're going to play Sir Duke in all keys in October.
Yes, sir.
Well, see, they picked their own song, and he actually went from Rubber Band Man to Sir Duke, and I'm like, okay, go ahead, man. You know, challenge yourself. You know?
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. I did a Stevie Wonder tribute about 3 weeks ago, and we did that one. Any other questions?
I like the idea of each one of those kids being obligated to ask at least one question. You mentioned that earlier, but I think it should be the rule because I'm just
Follow through, huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because what it is that during the course of your week, when you're not seeing each other, there's certain things that's going to be a challenge, and those are the kind of questions that professional musicians have. I mean, the kind of conversation professional musicians have all the time. You know, a perfect example, the Stevie Wonder tribute. It's this one song that he wrote called "Send One Your Love," which is very, it has a lot of idiosyncrasies harmonically, and I called my keyboard player, Daryl Levine, and I asked him, I said, man, how are you approaching this song in terms of connecting all these different changes that have 3 different tonal centers? You know, and really he broke it down to me, and I listened to it. When he broke it down and he made me listen to it, it made me realize that it was only 2 5-1s in different keys. He said, man, you're making this way harder than it is. But sometimes you have to ask people, you have to step outside of yourself and ask people stuff, and they can make, and you can see it, and you're like, wow, this is not as hard as I thought it was. Any other questions?
To me, it seems like the hardest part of the pandemic and for kids learning an instrument is that they are not getting as much of the feedback as they used to get. And it's one thing to play for yourself and listen to yourself play, but you know, part of being a performer is wanting the feedback. And
if you're right, it's we prepare to perform.
Yeah.
We, you know, if I can be, you know, if I can, well, I'm just going to say it. Okay, I believe that God gave me this talent to give it away, you know, to share with people. So I prepare so I can perform and hopefully impact people in a positive manner when I play for them, you know. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge if you're 14. It's a challenge if you're 56.
Right.
You know that. You know, I'm sure that, and the challenge presents itself in different ways too. I'm sure some days my wife is like, "Who is this dude?" Because during this pandemic, not being able. This is the longest that I've not, you know, from March 13th until I tried to go back out there and play and didn't feel comfortable playing, which was about 3 weeks ago. That was the longest that I have not played publicly since I was in the 6th grade. You know, so, you know, we've always been taught to prepare to perform, you know, prepare to perform. Even when you first start playing, you prepare so that you're performing in front of your band director. You know, they give you an assignment, even if it's just Mary Had a Little Lamb, you play it in front of your band director. That's, you know, play it by yourself, Kyle. Okay, play it by yourself, Henry. Play it by you know. So it's always a prepare to perform and reach a certain goal. Whereas now sometimes goals, that's why I say you got to make your own goals now, because sometimes goals are not visible. You know, when we learned all this Stevie Wonder music, like 20 Stevie Wonder songs, that was a goal that we set, you know, when Scott Gurdon asked me to play at his place, I said, my first show I want to do is a Stevie Wonder show. I told my band, hey, we're going to do a Stevie Wonder show in 4 weeks. These are the songs. These are the keys. this is the arrangement. We're gonna have a Zoom meeting once a week and talk about all this stuff, you know, and gonna do one 45-minute rehearsal, you know. So that was a goal, but I'm talking about like right now, I don't have any performances on the book, but I still need to keep my skills up. I still need to have certain things that would give me a sense of accomplishment.
And Ellen, it also helps if there's a private teacher.
He's working with a private teacher twice a week. But, you know, I think at least for Henry, and I don't know about the other kids, but he likes to hear me say good job when he plays it right. You know, he just likes the feedback, you know, no matter what.
Yeah.
If he's playing for himself and nobody says anything, it's a little more discouraging, I think. Right, Henry?
Right. Okay, now one thing I am going to recommend to make this a little bit more fun. It's a guy named Jamie Abersol that has he has a series of books and CDs. Well, now links that you can actually play with a rhythm section, and that will make it a little bit more interesting. And I'm sure that there's a Stevie Wonder. Like he's working on Sir Duke, I'm sure there's an instrumental track out there that he can actually play his horn and play with that track. You know, and the day might be like, you know, like if I was going to practice that, maybe today I'm going to learn the horn line. Da 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 da. I might learn that today. Then tomorrow, I'm gonna learn the melody that Stevie's singing. Okay. Then I'm going to write down these chords that makes up the harmonic structure of this tune, and I'm gonna learn how to improvise over it. You know, we have to set certain goals for ourselves, and trust and believe as a musician, when you accomplish those goals, you feel great about yourself. You know, because it's about giving birth to something new every day. That's what's keeping me going.
Does it get a little depressing for you right now, not being able to perform live? I mean, you probably get a little addicted to that.
Oh yeah,
too.
yeah. I've had a couple of days where I'd sit in my backyard feeling sorry for myself. You know, but you know, the thing is that I want to come. This is the ultimate goal. Okay, I want to come out of this pandemic being a better musician than I was going in. I want to be better. I want to be fresh. And I have a friend that lives in DC, and we were kind of talking about this. And she said, Kyle, look at it as a reset button. You reset in your computer, and then you're just going to add different programs and apps to what you already have existing. You know?
That's a really good analogy. I like that.
I totally agree.
I like that because you do get an opportunity to reinvent. You know, yourself as an artist, you get an opportunity to create something for, you know, the next generation coming up. You get an opportunity to do a lot of different things when you're able to sit down and, you know, remap, or like you say, reroute things. So even if you, like for myself, I know I have missed being on stage. Like that live performance, having that audience in front of you, it's nothing like it. But you do have to come back and sit down and look at yourself as an artist, like you say, and see how it is that you want to come out of this, you know, on the other end. So. And
there's so many different ways that you can do it. Like I keep bringing up Daryl Levine because he's one of my best friends. You know, his whole thing is that this is giving him the opportunity to explore some stuff that he's always wanted to do, which was writing for film. And writing in a larger ensemble type situation where he's writing for strings and things of that sort and doing arrangements. And that's where he's investing his time, and that's presented a whole new challenge to him. You know, so he's like, man, yeah, this is, you know, yeah, I'm missing being in front of people playing, but also I'm enjoying the fact that some stuff I wanted to, you know, put under my belt and start pursuing, I have the opportunity now to start working on it.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think the kids can get out of this time too, through particularly these Zoom classes, is that they are being treated as adults and, like Artie said, as musicians. And it's going to be a little bit different from when they're in a classroom with 20 people in a Zoom class and a teacher, and that they are being encouraged really to speak as musicians to you all, and that you are going to respect their ideas and their questions, and you're not going to treat them as stupid. And they're also here with peer group that doesn't think anything they ask is stupid. And that's really a gift, because they're, you know, Zoom is a new thing and everybody's kind of trying to figure out what the etiquette of it is.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the etiquette, you know, we had one of the speakers who talked to us about sitting in the front of the classroom and making sure that you were getting the most information out of the class when you're live. But he didn't really apply it to this situation, which is very similar in that you have to be somebody that takes the mute button off, and even if you're uncomfortable with it, you have to ask questions and engage yourself in it fully, or you're not making the entire thing is not coming together. It's like being a band, and you know, it's an intimate setting, and there's a rhythm to it. And if somebody's just sitting there and they're not playing their instrument and just listening, I mean, it's great that they're listening, but really participation is so important. And I'm hoping that all these kids know that, you know, I'm not that smart. I know nothing about music. And if I'm willing to say something on here, it's going to be much stupider than anything any of you could say. So feel free, jump in there, you know, ask questions.
And chances are, if you have a question, someone else has it too. I know a lot of the stuff I learned was from people asking questions I might not have even known I had at the time. It's like when they asked the question, I realized, hey, yeah, I wondered that too. So just do, information helps everyone.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and I want to add on to that. Actually, a couple of things. I'm not looking at a dictionary right now, but if I was to look up the word musician, okay, I think the word musician probably define one who plays music. They didn't say one who played music for 40 years, but it's one who played music. So from the time that you pick up an instrument, whether you've been playing a week or if you've been playing for a number of years, you're a musician, because a musician is one who plays music. So I think that dialogue should be carried over in the classroom anyway, that you treat, regardless if they're a student musician or a professional musician, they're still a musician. Okay, that's the way I look at it. You know, and then another thing that struck me, you just said that somebody probably wanted to ask that question anyway, but you have to be paying attention to hear the question that the other person was asking. And that goes back to the way that I kind of learned how to write and how to transpose and all that. I didn't learn how to transpose in a theory class. I learned how to transpose by sitting in a band class and realizing that when my band director as an alto saxophonist told me to play G, the French horn is going to play F. You know what I'm saying? You know that, you know, in terms of transposition, that's the way I learned it.
Yeah.
You know, just, you know, that trombones, and, you know, you match notes, you know, that the transposition, that clarinets, you know, if a trombone player is playing B flat, the clarinet's going to play C. You know, alto E flat instrument's going to, you know, I learned that in a band class at Oak Village Middle School, watching Al Jones teach the other students. So it's about paying attention and understanding. In a band, you should understand everybody's role. Everybody's role and everybody's responsibility.
And to me, that's like a team sport of any kind. That would be the same if you were acting or if you were on a football team or anything. It all,
Exactly.
or even if you're working in a corporation.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So any more questions?
Amani, you have a question?
No.
Armani, you were one of the people that I particularly thought you didn't have a question, but I really thought it was cool that you asked about teaching and whether that was something that you were worried about, the health situation, you know, of going back to teaching. And I thought that was really cool because that even though it wasn't a question about the class, it showed that you were concerned about the teacher. And I thought that was giving back even. That's stuff that teachers need to know, that kids are caring about those things.
Thank you.
How long you been playing, Amani? Since you're not going to ask me no questions, I'm going to ask you questions. Now, how about that?
Okay, well, I've been playing piano for about 8 years. And like since I was 5, and I've been playing alto sax for 1.5 years. Okay,
which one you like the most?
To be honest, I'm gonna say sax.
Why?
But I don't know. It's just, it seems easier than the piano, even though it was my first instrument. I don't know. It's just.
And she sing also.
Okay. Who you listen to? What saxophone players you listen to?
I don't really listen to any, to be honest.
Hey, what singers you listen to?
Beyonce, Lizzo, all of the like R&B, and Whitney Houston and stuff like that.
Okay. What piano players you listen to?
Oh, I love Ray Charles. I love his music.
Okay, that's cool. That's good. Hey, the reason I asked that question is, okay, with any instrument that you're pursuing, in order to know the tradition of that instrument and what you're supposed to sound like, you need to listen to great players that play your instrument. That's just like, and I equate stuff to basketball players, that if there would not have been a Kobe Bryant if there was not a Michael Jordan. He watched Michael Jordan play and patterned his game after Michael Jordan. The same with LeBron James. You know, they pattern their games after, it wouldn't be a Deshaun Watson if it wasn't Warren Moon. You know what I mean? So we have to go back in history and study. And even if you don't go back in history, just find somebody that you like the way they play that particular instrument, so you can have goals and say, you know what, I want to sound like that. That's important. Okay?
And even with Michael Jackson, he studied James Browne.
Exactly. So we gotta, if you playing any instrument, you need to listen to people that play that instrument well. If you're playing trumpet, there's no reason that you shouldn't know Louis Armstrong when you hear him immediately. But at the same time, you should also understand Wynton Marsalis. But that's just kind of where my head is. And we've been on here 2.5 hours. I know these kids like, goodness gracious. I know they like, goodness.
Are there any other questions? Are there any comments? Anybody, any of the guests want to say anything? Dr. Wills, Mr. Wilson, Ms. Robinson? I guess not.
I see he is waving.
Who is that?
There she is, Ms. Robinson.
Her mic is not working for some reason.
There it is.
You want to say something, Ms. Robinson?
No, we can't hear her.
We can't hear you. Come in here. Come in the music room. Can't hear you. Come.
Hello. I just wanted to say to everyone, don't give up on your instrument. Whether you're playing multiple instruments or your single instruments, don't give up. And learn all that you can about your instruments and learn it well, because you never know who is listening to you. Mr. Turner, thank you so much. I enjoyed your class. Actually, I did have a few questions for you, but you magically answered them all. You really did.
Okay.
So I'm kind of glad that I didn't. I would have felt very foolish. And to hear you say, wait a minute, didn't you hear me before? I just answered that. So I'm glad that you answered my questions, and thank you for the class. Most appreciative. I'm always learning, and I'm still learning. And don't give up. Mom, stay in the game. Keep listening. And before you know it, you're going to be picking up an instrument, wondering, how did I do that? So stay in the game.
You know, I thought that.
Miss Alani, please keep up the good work. This is excellent, the master classes. Charlie, good job. Thank you so much. And to all the teachers and speakers who spoke ahead of time, performers, thank you so much. I definitely love learning, and I am a lifelong learner.
Well, you know what? I'm in terms of repeating the question, no problem at all, because that's the best way. That's the way everybody learns, and that's by repetition.
Yes.
You know, you do something. You know, I'm trying to think of the French word what is repetition or something like that. It's a French word that means repetition. That's the word they use for practice.
Yep.
You do something over and over and over and over again, you get it. So I look at that the same way as practicing. You know, and the more you hear it, the more it sinks in.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Hey, Claude.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Robinson.
Yeah,
social distancing. Social distancing don't need to happen in your house.
Well, we just happen to be on two different computers, and something's happening with the other computer, so I'm gonna figure it out after we get off air.
You know I'm a mess, man. You know that.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be a part of it, man. Good to see you, and hey, love everybody, and you know, some future things are coming up, so stay tuned.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'm gonna call you, bro.
Sure.